Hey, Colin. It's nice to be here with you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming to meet with me today. Basically, what the interviews are for is for business owners, pastors, lead pastors, those in recovery of any kind of form, and those even in the military. And I know that you have a military background with you, so ask some questions about that and get to know a little bit.
Great.
So what brought you to Florida? I know you're from out of state.
Florida was my first assignment in the military.
Oh, okay.
So after I got out of basic training and technical training, my first assignment was to Panama City, Florida. And ever since then, every rotation I had, wherever I went, they brought me back to Florida.
Yeah.
So Florida's always been the home base,
station,
sort of.
Yeah.
But the
Pretty much your
Panhandle,
whole life then.
Yeah. The Panhandle, not here. Here I came down to Central Florida after I got out of service.
Where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
I was born in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay. Wow. How was it living there?
Well, when I grew up, it was more small town type of environment where everybody in the neighborhood looked out after everybody else. I guess maybe as a time that was in the U.S. as well. It's not like that now. Now you can't tell it from the culture in the U.S. The same problems that are in the U.S. they now have in Trinidad, but that wasn't the environment that existed when I grew up.
Yeah.
I didn't worry about walking on the streets 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't worry about
Now that's a thing.
Now that's a thing.
Yeah. What was one of the biggest influences that you had growing up to lead you into the military?
Strangely enough, my influence that brought me into the military was a situation comedy on American TV that used to come down to Trinidad called I Dream of Jeannie.
Okay.
And it was, the backdrop for it was Cocoa Beach, Florida. So that was my impression of what the Air Force was. The only knowledge I have about the Air Force is I Dream of Jeannie.
Right.
And so all of my military career, I kept trying to get assigned to Cocoa Beach. Never did, but.
Looking back, what stands out the most of your time in the military? What's like a big moment that you had that you can remember, some instances or a couple instances even?
For me, I got born again in the military.
Okay.
So I don't think if I were still in Trinidad, I would be born again. I was brought up Catholic, and in that environment, you would have stuck to your own. So it was the separation from culture, separation from family, separation from the things that you know, that now you're in another paradigm in the military. You're dealing with a number of people, you're dealing with new people that you've never been around before that have a different type of mindset.
Yeah.
So you're more open to the fact that there are many ways, there's a different way. So it made me open to the fact that maybe Catholicism is not the way.
How old were you when you found Christ?
18.
Okay. What was that interaction like? What happened?
Well, I actually, in the military, the Air Force, probably primarily in the Air Force, how you were roomed in dormitories. Usually it's 1-bedroom dormitories. Most of the time those bedrooms had 2 beds in them. And so in my dormitory, there were maybe 8 rooms on one side, 8 rooms on the other side. And in the middle of them, there was an area we called a day room. It's like a living room. The TV is there, then the things with the couches are there. So you want to come out and you see the TV, that's where you would go. Well, periodically, people would leave books in there. And somebody left a book by Hal Lindsey. He writes about, he's dead now, he writes about end time. So basically the book was called The Late Great Planet Earth. And basically it went through the book of Revelation, talking about the seal judgments and the trumpet judgments and the bowl judgments. But interestingly, that didn't bother me because in my mind, I was a Catholic. I mean, I'm set, so God's pleased with me. It wasn't until you got to the end of the book that he started going over scripture, started talking about the righteousness, man's righteousness is as filthy rags. Romans 3, and then brings up the fact it's by grace you are saved. And I'd heard that word grace before, but no one had ever described what that means. And it was the first time I saw the words unmerited favor. I never realized that.
Yeah.
because all my life I'd been trying to by works, because that's what the Catholic faith is based on. You got to perform.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to work my way into heaven. If you're good enough, God will accept you. And to find out that no, it doesn't matter what you do, it's filthy rags to God.
Right.
The only thing that is important to him is what you do with his son.
Right.
And he's giving you that not because you deserved it. The Bible for me was always a central part of my life, because even in Catholics don't often read the Bible, but in my home, especially during Lent, my mom had this thing about we would read a chapter of the Bible every night.
This is in Trinidad.
In Trinidad. So in my mind, I always had the belief that this is God's word here, that what's included in here is wisdom. I may not understand it, but this is him speaking in there. And so once, the verses were presented, and I go back and I look and I realize, yeah, they're in there. And I realize all this time I've been trying to perform for God. So at the time I did this, I was by myself.
It reminds me of like a double-edged sword, really. You read some scripture, you found some verse, right? And it penetrated you.
Read this verse, and then there was the sinner's prayers at the back of this book. And I said that prayer, and I'm sitting down in my room, I'm thinking to myself, my God, it had nothing to do with me. I jump in my car where my dormitory was in the Air Force Base. Tyndall Air Force Base is on the coast. My dormitory was on the furthest western street of that base. So between my dormitory and the ocean, there was just maybe 3/4 miles of brackish water type thing. You can't really see the beach because those little things are blocking it. But there was like a parking lot that was, you drive down and there's a parking, must have had a building there at one time. The only thing there is this platform. And I go out there and I park my car. It's maybe 1/4 mile from my dormitory. I'm sitting in my car. I can't see the ocean, but I can see nature. All I can see out there is nature. And I am rejoicing in my car about what I just learned. And in my mind, I'm the only one who figured this out, because I don't know anybody who knows this. I'm thinking I just got...
It's like, who do you tell now?
I just got... So I don't know...
Biggest revelation
Right,
ever.
I just got this revelation. And somehow or the other, after that, I got hooked up to a Bible study that used to be a place where people could go over, play instruments, I think they had like food stuff over there you can have. But basically, they were using this facility to do a Bible study. I have no idea. I don't remember how I got hooked up with them. And so very, very shortly after it, I got hooked up with them. And then my first objective was to go buy a Bible, to be able to read it for myself, buy my own, because I didn't have a Bible.
How did that feel, buying your own Bible?
It was great, because now I own the Word.
The Word of God.
And, because especially in the Catholic faith, it's not that the Bible is not preached. The priest says 1 or 2 verses out of the Bible, and then he has a whole eulogy based on those. So you're not really encouraged to read anything. You're not really encouraged to take this upon yourself to learn about God. But it was because that was a tradition in my family, is how I learned that. Because I don't think that's sort of normal, but it happened in my family.
What was it like with the religion that they believe in, right? And they believe in God and Jesus Christ, right? And what was it like in the house? Did they go to church? Did you guys
we
go
went to church every Sunday.
Okay.
Every Sunday we were in church. Because my mom's a very religious Catholic.
Yeah.
And I would think my mom is the one that pushed it more than my father.
Yeah.
My father was Catholic as well, but he's like, she's the one that had to keep that tradition going.
Yeah.
In Trinidad, all of the schools usually were part of a denomination. So I went to a Catholic elementary school. And when I graduated from elementary and going into high school, the Catholic high school, you got into high school in that system based on passing a comprehensive test. And based on your scores of your test, you got the opportunity prior to the test to say, what is your first choice of high school? So I chose the Catholic high school. What's your second choice? I chose the Presbyterian high school. So
Wow.
basically I ended up with my second choice, which was a Presbyterian high school.
How was it there?
It was good, but it wasn't, you wouldn't know it had anything to do with any denomination.
Religion or anything, yeah.
Because
It was just like a school.
it was just a
basically.
school.
Yeah, with this covering over.
Right.
Basically.
In the
Yeah.
Catholic ones, you would have had the Catholic theology, and you probably have classes still.
Right, yeah.
Because even my elementary school was a Catholic elementary school. It shared the parking lot with the church.
Mm.
So I mean, you were
Right there.
Right there.
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
everything
right there.
you had to go. You cross the street, and
Mm.
you know.
So I know you've been involved in church and the ministry world for a long time, for many years actually. I know there was an instant where you were basically left to yourself, your own thinking, your own device, your own thoughts, in ministry, in the booth, as the AV. Tell us more about that.
Well, I got into this like a default because there was another person that had this ministry, and this was like his identity was tied up with this ministry, and so he came. I have always had the habit of when I go to any appointment, even with church, I come early. I come because I don't want to be rushing in, and I want to be able to come and say, I think this is a leftover from Catholicism. You come and you meditate.
Mm.
And so I would always
Prior to.
Yeah,
prior.
So I was always here early to hear the rehearsal. So I was there when any of the sound preps would be happening, just because that was my habit. So he was looking for a backup. So he comes and he asks me, do I know anything about audio? I says, look, I know nothing about audio. I said, but if it has something to do with technology, I can figure it out.
Right.
I may not understand it, but for me, I can know this button does this button does that. I can figure it out. And so the intention was he was supposed to train me, but because his identity is tied up in this ministry, anytime we would meet, he's focused on whatever he's doing a rehearsal. He's focused on that. He's not focused on answering my questions.
Yeah.
Because I'm more a distraction now from what he's doing. So in the end, I realized that I'm not going to get training from him. I looked at the make of the board, and I went up in YouTube and looked at videos relative to the board.
Get into it like that. Yeah.
And so basically, the problem with that is the approach. You don't know what version of the software that YouTube video is, because these boards, they upgrade the software and they perform functionally differently.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm looking at one video, it's telling me I'm supposed to be able to do this, and I'm looking at the board and I can't figure out, this doesn't look like anything. So it was not the cleanest thing, but that was how I basically was training myself.
How long ago was that?
This was 2017.
Okay.
And so whatever I would see on the YouTube video, I would come ask him. And he would say, oh, you're trying to go too fast. You're trying to advance too quick. And I'm thinking, I'm just trying to understand what I'm trying to see.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's trying to teach me at his pace, and I'm trying to teach myself based on how I learn.
Yeah, and
I know how I learn. You don't know how I learn.
Yeah.
So I ended up where I would be teaching myself. And then what I would do is periodically I would come back to the church when he's not there, turn on the board, and just see what the screens look like.
You know, that reminds me, actually, in this church, I learned the board. I came out of Salvation Army, and then Charlie was training me. Just it was almost like the same example of what you're telling me. And he trained me, but he's so focused on what he has to do that he doesn't have really much time to, tell me everything. So I had to, do the same thing. And I would come here. I was living at my first sober house over there on 4th Street, and I would ride my bike over here, and I'd come and I'd unlock the doors and I'd turn everything on, and I'd run basically my own service before service started.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, that's what I was doing. I remember the first time he says he wants me to solo. Our board was in a platform on the 2nd story. So, but he would control the board from his tablet downstairs. So he's telling me I'm soloing. I'm up there doing knobs and he's changing them down on the tablet.
Right.
So, at the end of the training, at the end of the session, he now is critiquing as to what I did right and what I did wrong. And I'm just listening to him and I'm thinking to myself, what I did wrong if you're fixing whatever you're doing. I have no idea what I did and what you did.
Right.
So I figured, look, this is his world. My identity is not tied up in it. If I did it wrong, tell me what I did wrong and I'll fix it for the next time.
Move on.
I always had like this pushback anytime we would do anything. And then there was huge gaps in between when we do the training. He would be the one that would get engaged. You need to come back and do it. And then 2 or 4 months would go and nothing would happen. So this entire process.
And that's a whole learning process to get in here and learn the boards. I've had to, I went to one church one time and I never ran this board. It was a $10,000 Yamaha board.
Right.
And the good thing is you run one board and it's pretty much the same.
Right.
And once you find out where the buttons are and what to do, you can just apply that to each board.
So basically I had 2 or 3 years this went on because it was never contiguous.
Yeah.
And then finally he says, well, next Sunday, I want you to solo on the board again. I said, okay. So the Sunday I was supposed to solo, I get a call from the assistant pastor Saturday night and says, Dave has passed away. The guy whose ministry this was.
Wow.
So you're going to have to run the board.
The guy, the trainer, the guy
had a heart attack that night and passed away.
Wow.
And so I said, well, I was supposed to solo this Sunday anyway. He says, well, I guess you just inherited a ministry. And that's how I got into this.
That's one way to be born into that.
Right.
Yeah. And where you're at right now in ministry, with the AV and the tech. So what's the passion of that?
Well, for me, it is that there are activities that go on in a church that have to be done. Mm-hmm. And I figured I was taking one burden off of the pastor's shoulder.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to bother about this. He doesn't have to figure out who's going to do audio. He doesn't have to figure out any of this stuff. So I figured, I'll do it. But for me, I just realized that, I'm going to do this ministry primarily because I know it's something that's needed to be done. And I take the burden off of somebody else's shoulder and just get it done.
When I was in the booth and I was doing the board and the pro presenter and all that, it was like ministry for me. You're like in the game, basically. Mm-hmm. You're part of the team. Mm-hmm. If the words don't come up, they don't see them.
Right.
If it's squeaky on the audio, everybody's, they don't know where the sound's coming from. So it's, you never know what the board's going to do. It just turned the music on by itself.
That's the web. Right. You lost the web and then came back.
Can you share a powerful and encouraging moment you've experienced doing outreach or being in ministry?
The first guy I presented the gospel to, and I was just a baby Christian myself. He was, for some reason, in this Bible study, had just come that week, and his background was Catholic. And I mean, this is not a question that you ask people about their background, their religious background, in that Bible study. He basically brought it up. So then I realized that my experience will be able to help him. His experience is probably similar to mine in that he is trying to work his way to God.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand that God doesn't want that. And basically explaining to him what I had just learned myself. And to see
what a position that God puts us in, to be used in certain ways, jumping in, someone passes away, all of a sudden you're left with the board, you don't know what to do. And I know I experienced a little similar of that. No one died, of course, but I experienced that, what it was like. And you just have to put the grind in and do the job on the board and make the ministry happen, whatever.
To see the burden taken off his shoulder, that it's not on his shoulder.
Outreach pastor, associate pastor, doesn't matter what kind of pastor or person you are. My job was to make that job easier for that person, whoever that is. What's a challenge that you faced in the Air Force or in ministry that you can ultimately made you stronger in your faith?
What you deal with in the military, every 2 or 3 years, you're moving from one assignment to another. When you go to that new place, you're the new guy in town. Regardless of what your rank is, you don't know anything about the job that you're moving into. And now you're dependent on somebody else.
They don't give you the whole details
Right.
and listing before
Right.
you go. They just send you into the furnace.
Because what you're moving in there is to replace somebody else who's leaving. So I have to learn what he knows before he leaves. And his assignment is he's going to leave in 3 weeks. And I got 3 weeks to learn whatever I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
So basically, to actually have to start over every 2 to 3 years to relearn something, what it taught me is how to learn. At least how I learn. So that was what made it, that is what I learned in the military, is how I learn. And so basically I was able to adapt that with every situation I move forward, because I took the same principles to any new thing I had to learn.
How has the discipline and the leadership skills from the Air Force shown up in a way that you can serve the people here in ministry at the church?
When you promise something to do, you do it.
Amen.
When you say you're going to be at a particular place at a particular time, you're there at that time. When you say you're going to do the function, you do it completely. And you figure that at the end, you have to be able to pass off a product to somebody else who's going to expect it to be doing whatever that thing is supposed to be. And so I always try to approach anything that even in setting up stuff, I figured I picked this piece of equipment up from here and I moved it over here to use it. I always put it back. Why? Because I don't know why it was there.
Right.
But that's where I found
That's where you got it.
So because I figured somebody put it there for a reason, until somebody tells me that's not the way it's supposed to be stored. I don't know that. That's where I found it. So that was I think that's an indoctrination from the military is that you put things back. Right.
Discipline, regular consistency.
Right. Everything has to be repeatable.
Daily tasks every day.
Everything has to be repeatable.
Wake up early, suit up, and show up.
Right.
For every area, really. What's one inspiring message that you can leave to the people watching us today?
I don't know if it's so much inspiring, is that you don't know the things you do that is blessing somebody else. If you approach whatever you're doing with a good heart, meaning it's not about you, it's about the people you're serving. And if you're approaching it that way, oftentimes you have no idea what influence you're having. Is to have it after the fact. Somebody comes 2 years later and tells you, well, you said such and such, and I can't remember having said such and such, but it meant something to them. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what they're talking about, but that teaches me, watch what you say, watch what you do.
And what you do.
Because people are watching. You may not realize you're teaching somebody. You may not even realize you're teaching.
Yeah. You might not even know their first name.
Right. And that's what I realize is that I'm teaching, and I have to be careful.
Yeah. And I feel like this even goes back to what it was like in the military, because you have to be a certain way in the military around everybody, around your commanders or your chiefs. And all, I think what I've kind of heard over, if I were to put a summary on your message, I think it would be like, exactly that. You wake up and do what you say you're going to do. I'm not I wouldn't say I'm this person that says, oh, check these boxes every day. Right. But wake up and have this checklist and do what you have to do. And people are watching. People are going to see what you're doing, and your consistency here, in the booth and the time that I've known you, and here you show up. You got here before I did today, which that's not unusual, but you've put in the time, I feel, to have that leadership role in your life that people really do look up to you and see what you're doing. And I'm blessed to even sit in the booth with you and learn from you. Let's go into service. Let's do it. Let's do ministry together.
All right, sir.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Service here at the St. Pete Vineyard, Celebrate Recovery every Wednesday night.